Today, we're going to talk about hobbies and we're going to give you 5 good reasons on why you should start a hobby today. So let's jump in. First, I want to say welcome to everybody who has tuned in to this channel. This is a family channel, and welcome back to all of our fellow journeyers. Thank you for all the support so far. So today, we're going to go over 5 areas on why I believe it's important for you to start a hobby today or as soon as possible. So let's go into the 5 different areas. I got my notes right here. So the first area or domain we can call them is why hobbies matter. The second is going to be identifying your interest. Then we're going to move towards making a plan, followed by exploring different hobby options. And last but certainly not least, we'll be talking about staying motivated and enjoying the journey. So in each region or domain, I have various bullet points that I'll kind of talk on. So let's dig in. All right, so the first category, why hobbies matter. So before we go even any further into this, I want to say that there is going to be a wide variance within each viewer, each one of you, depending on your individual circumstances. And so I'm aware of that as much as I can be, and have tried to kind of temper the material appropriately within these regions. However, with that all being said, we're just kind of having a talk, and I want to kind of prompt you and encourage you, and that's what this is for. However, there's going to be a fine line for you individually, just like there's for me, where it's a real rational reason versus an excuse in your life. And so I kind of want to push you and challenge you today to maybe in those areas take a deeper look at, hey, is this just kind of like a real reason, like maybe you're in a season of life, as they say, where you really truly don't have time, right? Or is it just like an excuse? My wife and I were talking the other evening when I told her about this video and the reason for kind of wanting to do it, and we kind of talked about, she used to have a longer commute, and now that things have kind of shifted and our girls have grown older, I have 2 daughters, Lily and Gracie. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of inform some of you who are new. But my wife and I were talking, and now that the commute is kind of like way down, which is awesome. It's like, hey, remember when we used to get up like super early still and we would jog back in our more, profound jogging days? It's like, how did we get more time back? But yet at the same time, we're kind of like doing less when it came to exercising. So yeah, that legitimate, like, hey, let's take a look at that. So let's move into why hobbies matter. So the first thing I have is hobbies offer a much needed escape from daily routines, much needed. Now, some of you have been working your tails off for decades. Good, right? Not easy. You might be looking for that much needed. Escape is kind of just the word for, not escapism, but just escape from your daily normal grind, right? Or you might really enjoy it too, which right on, there you go. You picked a good field or vocation, but it might be time for that kind of ability to escape into something that you enjoy. Here's the next bullet point in this area. Engaging in hobbies boost happiness and reduces stress. So like currently this video is in February is when I'm recording it. Kind of for our areas, the sun kind of drops down. We're on the 37th parallel, and you don't get as much vitamin D. So hey, who couldn't use a boost, right? That'd be helpful. And then, stress is always in abundance, it seems like, in this world these days. And so helping to reduce that could also be kind of a real good ticket to help you out. So the third thing is it also can help foster creativity and provide a sense of accomplishment. Maybe you're in a job or a field where you are creative, right? I bet you could sure look forward to having some creativity being fostered. Or maybe you're needing a sense of accomplishment because your job is what's called rote, R-O-T-E, and it's kind of just like systematic, which can be great because the cognitive load of your position maybe isn't really high, but it gets kind of like ruddy, right? So maybe a hobby for you can potentially provide like a sense of accomplishment. So in my previous video, I shared with you as my daughter cut my hair. If you want, you could go back and check that video. She's 13 years old and she totally chopped her dad's hair, and she did a great job too. So In the video though, I talked about like starting new, trying new things, and that's kind of like the prequel to this video in many ways, I'm realizing now. But it's important to try new things, right? And I shared in that video how I just recently started jujitsu. So I'm in my 40s now, and I have done some combatives in my 20s, so literally 20 years ago. And I'm restarting this now, and there's a lot of young bucks, and it ain't easy. But here is the cool thing regarding a sense of accomplishment. First of all, I get the sense of accomplishment from just getting out there on the mats and grinding it out. Because I'm going to tell you straight up, maybe you're like a healthy, man or woman in your 40s and on, and right on, good for you, because it really starts to show, right? But just each and every little move I learn, or each time I just complete or show up to the gym, provides me just this little sense of accomplishment. It's a building block, just like anything else that you've done, that it becomes a cool habit in your life, okay? So let's move on to the second area, and that is now identifying your interest, okay? So my first bullet is to reflect on your passions, okay? That has to do with like past activities and maybe current desires. So think about something maybe you did when you were a child or younger. What's something that you were passionate about? So for me, no joke, when I was in middle school and high school, and it was this time of year, so I used to do that BMX stuff where we would go and like trade parts. We made all these like bikes where we would do those big jumps, right? I loved it. I had an absolute passion. We would wake up before school. I lived in a much smaller town, and so there was a lot of liberty in getting to kind of maneuver. I used to ride my go-kart around town like it was my car at 13, 14 years old. I mean, how cool is that? Different times, right? Different times. But I'd grab my shovel with my buddy, and if we saw rain, we would get our shovels and we would go dig jumps because it softened up the dirt. And when you're really digging a lot, I mean, you're like, hey, this is great. But the point I'm making is we were passionate about it. We read magazines, right? So maybe there was something in your life when you were younger that you were just absolutely passionate about. Well, maybe it's time to blow the dust off that and re-examine, right? Or maybe there's something right now that you have a current desire, right? But you're just like, ugh. Well, that's what this video is for. We're kind of walking you through in order to kind of help spark and encourage and motivate, push and challenge you to do it. I mean, come on. I can get out there and roll around like a flopping fish and get folded up like laundry. You can do it, right? And remember, it's for fun. It's for accomplishment. The second bullet is I was just talking about exploring your childhood interest. And really what I'm trying to do is spark that joy in you again. So reflect on that. You've got something in there when you looked at the world with wonder like a child. Remember that? I hope so for you. Okay, so the next area is consider activities that align with your personality and your lifestyle. So I was going over this with my wife. I'm like, how do I kind of explain lifestyle and all of that? Well, here's a way to think about it. Maybe currently you live near a lake, an ocean, mountains, a desert, whatever it is. I don't know how you got there, but there you are, okay? Maybe it's a big city and you're from the country, maybe from the city and you live in the country, but that's kind of your lifestyle, your region, right? In some ways. So let's just say you somehow found yourself on a beach. Whoa, right on, way to go. Could be a cool time to look at things like taking jogs on the beach, maybe skimboarding, boogie boarding, surfing, scuba, photography. Well, I don't know how really to fish the ocean, but fishing, things like that, crabbing. But you get the point. Like, use the region where you're at currently, because hey, who knows how long you'll be there, right? There's no telling. And could you imagine looking back like 3 years after you left an area? You're like, man, I used to live by the beach. What I wouldn't give now to be able to go there and do all these things. But, we get caught up in it. So look at your surroundings. Look at what there is to offer with what you have now. And I bet you there's a lot more than kind of what you think. Imagine it was taken from you or you got placed somewhere else. And you're like, what could I have done there? And that's just a good starting point. But yeah, look at that. And your personality has a lot to play in that too, right? Maybe you are not a surfer, right? But maybe, like I said, maybe you're a fisher, or maybe, photography. I mean, come on, coastlines can be beautiful. So let's move into the third area, and that is making a plan. So I'm not going to be like the videos where I'm doing some systematic breakdown. So with making a plan, you want to set a realistic goal, and only you know what realistic looks like to you. Some people are really good at being strong starters, and that's great. And some hobbies are a sprint, perhaps, right? Maybe you only got so much time to soak up what it is you're doing and where you're doing it. But if you really want to kind of reach mastery in something or enjoy it and unlock it, kind of further, set more of a realistic goal. If you're like let's just use the gym because it's a very common, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. Okay, well, how often are you going to the gym right now? Probably not much, right? If you're not. Well, set something more realistic and what that looks like for you. Because trust me, your energy levels, they will increase, but you'll also be kind of, well, it depends on everybody's individual, body and what you've gone through. But I've been aching for the last few weeks. And so it's setting realistic goals, right? Not like I'm going to double days, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. Hey, kind of doubling back to the last one though, is also knowing your personality. If you are kind of gung-ho alpha, it's all or nothing for me, then to their own self be true, right? But I also want you to look at like long-term too. What's the longevity, right? And what's the quality as well? But moving on, don't overwhelm yourself, I guess is what I'm trying to say, okay? So next one is you're gonna allocate dedicated time for your new hobby in a schedule. And so I guess if you don't have a schedule, boy, that's a whole other, not Pandora's box, but that's a whole other thing. Maybe I'll talk on scheduling later down the line. My family and I, we have a 6-month schedule on our wall. Now, we certainly do not fill it out as often as we should, but it has helped to kind of provide and allow us to see kind of this rhythm for us, like a 6-month rhythm. It's always kind of floating, but it helps me to see like where the gaps are. And so schedules are important, but try to allocate some time. I mentioned earlier the conversation I had with my wife about like commute times, the no commute times, right? There's some time right there. And if you don't allocate or you don't fill up or you're not, as the word, mindful of these things, your time will get taken, right? And unfortunately, it's probably not to something that you're actually liking, right? It's in this day and age, statistically, you're probably doing something digital, probably even just more work, more emails, right? So look at really allocating that time. Okay, next bullet is to gather essential materials and resources for a smooth start. So this is kind of a good segue. We signed my daughter up, my older daughter Lily, for tennis. So my wife led her. She was a tennis player. Her grandfather, they actually played at the same school growing up. And so now we thought, hey, why not get Lily into it? She's very big, like intellectual. The girl just nailed it. She got principal list, which is 4.0. Again, really, she's just very studious. But as parents, we're like, hey, you need to do a little more. We've had her in horses in the past, but now we're trying some new things, right? So we have to get things ready like I'm talking about. So we're gathering the essential materials, right? You got her tennis shoes, and then we got her, well, actually, we got my wife's old racket. I actually got to ask her if it was my father-in-law's, but we're going to rewrap it and get her ready for the tennis practice. So gather essential tools if you have them for whatever it is that you're going to do. Start looking. Let me give you another example for myself. I enjoy hiking and backpacking, and I support all kinds of different businesses, but definitely because I like to do it as much as I can and I want to have more people go with me, I go to the Salvation Army and the Goodwill periodically and I look for different gear, right? So I'm gathering those materials, right? I'm preparing for later. That way, if there's somebody, I'm trying to make the barrier to entry kind of easier and smaller, right? Because whatever it is that you're doing, a big reason at times is a financial cost, right? And I'm not going to pretend that that's not the case, right? If you want to go mountain biking, you need a bike, right? And maybe you're not in a position right now where you can afford a bike, right? But you got, hopefully, some legs that work if that's something that you'd be interested in doing. So gathering essentials, like start looking around, right? Don't allow that to kind of like be your reason for not. Like I said earlier, you got $100 pants that you could buy at an outfitter that I find for $5. I mean, talk about a great deal, right? But you got to put in a little more of the effort at time, and you got to be a little more intentional with your thinking, okay? So that is it for making a plan. So the next area, the fourth area, we're going to talk about exploring different hobby options. So the first bullet is to dive into some creative pursuits, okay? So we're going to talk more about like what some of these could be. So creativity, painting, writing, music. These are like timeless, right? We go all the way back to those caves in France, like some of the first writings and pictures, all the way to the latest music and book that was dropped today by whatever artist, okay? And so maybe you don't feel like a creative type. I certainly didn't growing up as much. I mean, not in the formal method, that is, like playing an instrument, writing, and painting, but yet somehow I found myself in my 30s writing books. So here's just a couple right here. So I've written 3 books. This United States of America, it's part of a series. I haven't even finished the 3rd one. I'm like halfway through because I wrote, this one's really profound to me. It's kind of always the ones that the artist or the creator really find like special to them that seem to not always be the ones that hit. And then the other stuff that's kind of like, they're like, yeah, it was good, you know, it was okay, but those typically take off. It's weird. This is the one that's on my heart, and this one had a lot to do with like veterans and people going through struggles and like deep subjects. So I actually sell it on Amazon. I think I'm going to do like maybe an author read at some point. I'm getting there. Where the channel is just continuing to emerge, and I'm just trying to stay as steady with it as I can rather than push out nonsense or get myself overwhelmed. So anyways, if that's something you're interested in, I could, I guess, throw a link in there. This one's like only 30,000 words. So it's like novella territory versus this is like this one here. Oh, that's the second one in the series. That's like 90,000 words. So anyways, the point I'm making is if I can write a book or something like that or throw things together, you got something in you. What that creativity is, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe you got some cooking, right? But maybe you write a poem. Like, don't discount these things. Humans have been doing these things since the beginning, right? We have this creative outlet in us, and so let it out if it's in there. I want to encourage you with that, like for real, let it out. I don't know what it looks like, right? I've done engineering too, right? I was in like laboring unions, right? And so that's creative too. Go walk out in your neighborhood. And these architects and these planners and these people have designed these things, right? That is creative, right? And then obviously you look at the creative design, and I'm a man of faith, by the way. This is a faithful channel. And so try to, and I say that just being honest, that everything we look through, we try to look through it through a faithful lens, but it doesn't mean that I don't stumble and fall. But I just look around the world, and it's just beautiful. The creative design that God has just allowed us to be in. So what is the next area? In this area, staying motivated and exploring different hobbies. Okay, so engage in active hobbies. So we have creative hobbies. Now we're looking at active hobbies, and that's where I talked about like hiking, sports, dancing. Not something I'm very good at. In fact, I think I was kind of scarred from my 6th grade because at the time I wasn't allowed to dance, right? I do now with my, just in general. I danced at my wedding, danced with my daughters. I'm nothing against dancing. I just wasn't. I think that kind of like pushed me away a little bit. We did like square dancing in the 6th grade. I was actually okay at it now that I think about it, but I had to dance with the principal. How embarrassing was that? Anyways, I digress. I'm going down my own memory lane. Anyways, these are active, right? These are active hobbies. So what's something active for you? What's a minimal active hobby, right? Walking, hiking, jogging, push-ups, sit-ups, like your body, your physical body, right? Those are just like super low barrier entry regarding financial costs, right? And then from there, it just goes on, whatever an active hobby looks like for you. There are so many out there. Think about this. Go back 100+ years ago and drive around your town and look at all the different studios and the things there are to do now. Like, how fortunate are we? Like, we're able to go to all these variety of places and engage and learn all of these different things. So don't dismiss that. I'm speaking to myself, really, because I have in the past. I think there's also a reason why me and my wife have been on like super budget plans for a long time now, and things are just starting to kind of ease out, and so we're able to like advance our hobbies and our health more now. And so that's also an aspect for some people, right? For some of us. But anyways, creative, active. Okay. Now, what's third area? Learning. Okay. So exploratory, right? So we have creative, we have physical, now we have intellectual hobbies like learning a language, okay, or coding. Like we live around the Silicon Valley area, so I am like in many ways a fish out of water. When I first moved to San Jose and I went to like a men's retreat with the guys at the church, I'm just like, I'm gonna do this. I remember we're all standing around, everybody's on their phones and we're talking, and it was like, I don't know any of this, right? And my parents were very kind and got me a computer with the DOS and like the programming, and so I even kind of knew some of that when I was younger, but whoa, once again, I digress. Anyways, intellectual hobbies, learning a language. That's a really big one. And I think, now this is just my own opinion, right? And I think that it's important that if you have some people in your life that there is a language barrier, that you could help ease it. Nobody's suggesting you learn it fluently, but I recently tried to just pick up a little Portuguese, right, from the place that I'm going, just to try to say hello and good night. And while I'm doing this, I'm explaining it to my daughter, Grace. She does jujitsu. She's been doing it for a while. Just explaining to her just about respect and kindness, and just kind of imagine myself in that position, right? That's all. And like I said earlier, I'm not saying you do it out of any type of guilt or any wrongful conviction in your life, but just out of like goodness. So a couple years ago, I think, 2 years ago now, because we're in February, we were fortunate to be able to go on like once in a lifetime, maybe, journey to France. We went to Paris. I took the family. I got the deal was incredible. I don't know how we got it. We did. We're very blessed and thankful for it. We went in the off season in February, got the tickets way in advance. Airbnbs were like super low, so we were able to go. But the point to this story is when I was over there, as a foreigner, I'm thankful for the phones, but there was some reliance, right, on the good nature of others regarding language. And so it was impactful to me. It's not my first time overseas, right? I spent time in the military, but that's a little different. You're a little more forceful in that capacity versus this one, just kind of sightseeing and trying to appreciate new areas and cultures. But yeah, languages are pretty cool, and it can be very helpful depending on your lifestyle and what you're after. So the three areas in exploring different hobby options are creative, active, and intellectual. So maybe there's some other stuff, like my wife likes to puzzle, right? My other daughter does diamond art while they have like music or shows on in the background. So that's the fourth area. Now let's move to the fifth, and that is going to be staying motivated and enjoying the journey. Whoa. Okay, so I recently watched a YouTube video because my feed's like full with jujitsu now because I'm like trying to learn about it, right? You know how that goes on YouTube. And one of the guys talked about it like the 3 weeks to 2 month mark is you'll kind of like the newness will wear off. And then it's kind of going to up to 3 weeks to 2 months, it'll really start to kind of define if it's something you're going to do, right? So I'm like, hey, this is kind of perfect to talk about that, then staying motivated and enjoying the journey. So how do you do that? Or what's some areas? Well, connect with others who share your passions for the hobby. Birds of a feather flock together, right? It's like no doubt that like, I have my hiking buddies, right? And now I'm making friends with like the jiu-jitsu guys. So these are people that in your kind of hobby are going to spur you on, challenge you, and help you grow in whatever that is. Now, obviously, some hobbies are going to be a little more, group than others, right? Be hard to do jujitsu on your own, but maybe photography, something to do on your own. But look around. Maybe there's a photography club at your local library or somewhere where you can meet up and get to meet other people, right? And learn some tips and tricks and just be appreciative of the new skill or the hobby that you're trying to pursue, okay? And then here is going to be a really big one. And for those of you who get it, it's going to like sink in. But embrace the learning process and celebrate your progress, okay? Your progress. So I have a propensity to kind of look around to kind of gauge where I'm at. I think maybe we all do because, we have class systems, right? It's like, well, what even is that? It's kind of our own way to just kind of like gauge, where am I at in comparison? It's not your identity. At least I hope it's not. But, it doesn't always help. So when I'm in the gym, and I definitely do not get the moves quickly. It takes me a while, which is crazy because I've always been more physical, but I've learned to celebrate my progress with each and every move and thing that I do, even if it's a difficult warm-up, which is funny to say now, but celebrating that. So whatever that is for you, you're going to, it's going to be like, hey, if it was like super easy, then I mean, kind of how boring ultimately, right? I mean, beginner levels are a thing, but it's celebrate the little things of whatever it is that you're doing and just kind of embrace it. Like, hey, I'm taking my time, my breaths, my energy, my resources that I've been given in order to kind of pursue this. Like, why not enjoy it? And then if you don't, have that real self-reflective moment, and then maybe, you know, pivot or shift. But try to embrace it, try to celebrate it, right? And then you obviously will have those other people around you, hopefully, you know, high-fiving you and spurring you on. And last in this area, and most importantly, have fun and let your hobby hopefully try to bring you some joy or happiness or peace, whatever that may be for you. So I hope these areas today that we've talked about does encourage you and spur you on. You can do it. Try not to put it off. In fact, don't put it off. I want you, for some of you, if you will, right now, grab a pen and paper and just write down 3 hobbies, 3 things that you want to do. Okay. And then when you get done with writing them down, I want you to, if you only have the chance to do one thing left, right? You only had so much time, circle that. Okay, and then for the rest of the evening or day or whenever you're watching this, I want you to think about why it is. Why do I want to do that? Okay, but I really want to encourage you today to take that move, advance, take a step, one step. You might be scared. Hey, when I walked in there was like black belts and high belts everywhere. And, you know, yeah, there was some ambivalence, right? Like, uh-oh, but I can do it, you can do it. We all can, okay? Find those supportive people in your life who can help you with that, right? Help you allocate the time. If you're not even sure which direction to start, you know, I don't know, look online. You could start something in the comments. Maybe we get something kind of moving with different people, like what they do and the reasons why. But I really just want to challenge you and encourage you. And that's why I just keep saying it over and over, because it's true, I do. We're past January. Some people are already fallen off of the new things they started. And so this is kind of afterwards for a partial purpose, right? In order to get you kind of re-jolted again with whatever it is that you started or something that you can start today. So I appreciate you being here today, learning and talking with me. And we will see you later on down in the next videos. Take care, be grateful, okay? And remember, you are loved, you matter, you have value, you are valuable, and you have purpose, okay? Please remember that, be good to one another, and we'll see you later on. Goodbye.